Hello and welcome back to Journey of Self-Awareness. In my last video, I started to talk about pride and spiritual pride, and I mentioned that it's one of the last obstacles on a spiritual path that can arise, or at least that's often the case. And I mentioned that pride can be used by the ego as a tool of the ego to reassert itself and to claim dominance again, to be back in the driver's seat and running the show of your life. Needless to say, pride strengthens the egoic sense of a separate self. It's a self-centered emotion, it's a self-promoting emotion, and it's a major obstacle on the spiritual path. Pride actually blocks all progress on a spiritual path when it's operating. And like I said in my previous video, pride can operate so subtly that it's difficult for us to notice when it's happening. It can manifest in any number of ways. It can come from all sorts of sources in our life. Many aspects of our lives can be the basis for pride, for puffing ourselves up or getting a little overinflated sense of self-importance, or feeling like we're in some way superior to others, if you will. So the ego can use pride to sneak in the back door and reassert itself, and before you know it, it's front and center again in your life. It's back in the driver's seat, and it's in charge, and it's running the show, and we may not even realize it. If you're aware of spiritual teachers in the last 25 or 30 years, they will claim an awakening experience, and then it isn't long before they go off the rails. The ego is back in charge, and their ego is asserting itself in very unhealthy ways. Pride is once again in the forefront, or it's behind the scenes and operating behind the scenes and running the show. And of course, this is the danger that we have to be aware of, and we have to be vigilant and ever watchful, mindful of it. So we have to be very vigilant, we have to be very mindful, very aware and watchful, because pride can operate without our conscious awareness. It can sneak up on us in ways that we didn't see coming and blindside us, and before you know it, it's operating in full force and creating havoc quite often. And then later, you only realize it later. It's like, what do they say? What's the expression? Pride before the fall. Pride before the fall. This and then of course you realize what's happened, and then you have to go kind of back to the drawing board. So this is why practicing mindfulness is so important. Self-reflection, introspection with sense of humility is so critically important. So we actively have to make time in our busy lives and take time out for self-reflection, introspection, meditation, practicing mindfulness with a determined and purposeful, in a determined and purposeful way. And this is because introspection and self-examination can go a long way to help us uncover subtle, prideful thoughts that may be operating under the surface. And only then can we begin to address them. So in the past, you've noticed that I've advocated journaling. This can be very helpful. Seeking feedback from trusted friends is another very helpful way of recognizing the unrecognized operation of pride in our lives. if you notice that pride's operating in your life, there's a few things that you should do or can do. First of all, you might as well acknowledge the fact that it's there and humbly accept the fact that it's back in your life, that it's operating in your life. And second, be grateful for the fact that you recognized it, that it's there. Now you have the opportunity to actively do something about it. And again, this is a subtle approach that doesn't require a great deal of effortful action to manage, but we'll get into that in a minute. Third, always embrace compassion for yourself and others. This is so important. We're all on a journey to escape the sense of a separate self. It's we're in a prison of our own making, and we're all trying to get out. And so we should embrace our own vulnerability and the vulnerability of others and accept our imperfections and the fact that we have negative mental and intellectual obscurations to awakening that arise in our lives. This is actually such an important part of the path. It is the path. It's the golden opportunity to work on yourself so that you become more receptive to awakening and to the receipt of divine grace. This is critical. So relax, remain aware, easy, and acknowledge the fact that we're all on a spiritual journey, that awakening will happen in its own time, and don't get anxious and don't become fretful or driven. Yeah, don't become driven. Pride is just another challenge that we're facing on the spiritual path, and when we recognize that, then this is an opportunity for us to, it makes it less likely for us to feel superior to others or judgmental, or it makes it more likely for us to be humble and to face our own shortcomings. So this is important. Finally, it's important to cultivate a beginner's mind. If you go back and look at my previous videos on this topic, you'll find out more about this important concept from Suzuki Roshi and Zen Buddhism. He wrote the famous book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And a beginner's mind is a mindset of lifelong learning and openness to new ideas and perspectives and spiritual practices, which is something we're going to be talking about now in the next few videos. It's an openness to continuous learning, and this counteracts the rigidity that's inherent in intellectual pride, thinking you know too much or thinking you know it all, or something along those lines. So open-mindedness helps us keep pride in check. It's a childlike wonder, an awe in the world, a miracle of creation, the miracle of being able to open to and become receptive to awareness. And so a beginner's mind promotes inner growth and spiritual progress. It's very important. Now, sometimes just recognizing the operation of pride in your life is enough for the ego to subside. And the metaphor I use is for the ego to go back into the back seat and let you drive the car rather than being in control. And this is especially true for those who have already had an awakening experience, but if you're not quite there yet, don't give up. If you haven't yet had an awakening, you can overcome your blinders, remove your blinders, the blinders that are created by pride, by actively practicing humility, self-reflection, compassion, empathy, gratitude, vulnerability, all of the holy virtues that I discussed at the beginning of this channel. There's very, very many videos about integrating the holy virtues into your daily life and the importance of doing so. All of these are ways to counteract and help us overcome the operation of pride in our lives. When we understand how pride can lead to arrogance and conceit or vanity or excessive sense of self-importance or a sense of superiority, no matter how subtle it may be, then we can take proactive steps to mitigate and counteract these effects in our lives. We should also remember that even the most accomplished spiritual masters maintain a daily practice every day, and they do so. It's usually a practice of cultivating the holy virtues and selfless service to others and seeking divine forgiveness, reminding oneself of the importance of remaining centered in awareness. These daily practices are done largely to keep the ego in check and to prevent pride from manifesting in our lives. So the goal, of course, is to diminish the ego's dominance in our lives and to reinforce a sense of interconnectedness and the compassion that's central to spiritual growth. Compassion not only for ourselves, remember, but for others. By recognizing and addressing the subtle ways that pride can reinforce the ego or block our spiritual progress or distort our perceptions or create blinders in our lives, we can cultivate a more authentic and humble and open-hearted approach to the spiritual path. Awareness and consistent effort can keep us on track and help us progress so that we're following a more authentic path of humility, openness, and continuous growth. So let's stay vigilant and practice the strategies that we'll be covering in future videos. These are the ways that we can prevent the ego from using pride to derail our spiritual journey so that we continue to make progress on the path. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate your support. Be sure to tell your friends about us and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm working on the next in the series of books that I've been writing, but I'm still quite a ways away from completing it. And there's very many personal changes coming up in my life that are going to kind of distract my attention from the channel a bit, but I'm going to do everything I can to post a video every week and maintain the course and stick with it. And because I have still very much to say, and I hope that my videos and my insights will be valuable and to help you and others along the spiritual path. That's my goal. That's my objective, is to be of help, to be of service to you and others. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Journey of Self-Awareness. Don't forget to subscribe because we're going to be talking about spiritual practices now and they'll be helpful. Bye-bye now. Take care.